we are now into practical 2. Practical 2 is about ISAM fragmentation analysis. The essence is to simulate index degradation in a file, and the tools we are going to use are Microsoft Access and then DB Browser for SQLite. Now the activity says, first of all, we build the activity says we build a table using Access. You create the students table with the primary key on student ID, and the columns in the table are student ID, name, and GPA. And then we add 50 records, and we now export the student file as student.csv, not db, student.csv. So we export it as a CSV file so that we can now import it into SQLite browser, and then it will be able to be saved as student.db. We now be able to execute our SQL commands there. We insert. Now the normal records we have are the 50 students records, and the moment we insert, after being a student.db, if we insert new records, now it means our table is going to be expanded beyond limit, and that is what is called fragmentation. So the number of leaves now are going to be increased. We'll be seeing the statistics later on as we analyze the records. And finally, what we are expected to have is to have a screenshot of the Access table in Microsoft Access, and then show our SQLite database with 250 records. And in fact, let's limit it to 50 records, because if you can do for 50, you can do for 250. Initially, we said we need 50 records into the table, so not 250. Let's make the correction. And then finally, we have a screenshot of the SQLite Stat1 output, and these ones are going to be printed and attached with the practical 2. And the next thing we do is to launch Microsoft Access, and then we create a blank database. By clicking on this, a blank database is going to be created. So we name it as student. So you name it as student. So we have students. So we have students.accdb, that is Access database. You click on create. So you click on create. Now open up an Excel and then create a table called students, and then insert records. You are going to insert 50 records, but as of mine, I inserted only 2 records. The name is name1, name2, GP 1.65, 1.88, and from there we move to exporting our records to SQL browser. So we click on students here, right click, and then take the option export. We are going to export it as a text file. From here we can browse and know exactly the location where we're going to keep, and now we're going to save our file at students.csv, because remember we said we're going to save it as CSV file. So we put it this way, and then we say save, and after saving, the file is accepted, and we now move to the next stage. And after clicking OK, we're taken to Export Text Wizard, and you make sure that you've selected the option delimited. You see the 2 records initially created in Access are now displayed here, and we move to the next, and you also make sure that comma is taken or is selected as the delimiter separator, and then you move to next, and finally you click on finish. So if you want those steps to be repeated automatically, you select the option save export steps. Otherwise, you just say close, and then we move to the next stage. And the next thing we go into is to open the SQLite database browser. You can download it and then install. I have mine installed here. So you double click on that, then wait for it to get launched. Now it's launched here. So the next thing we do is to import. Remember in Access we exported the student database as students.csv. Now we're going to import it into DB browser for SQLite. So remember what we are expected to do is to import into SQLite database browser the file as students.db. So this is the next thing we're going to do. We now go to DB browser. We create new database. We now call it students.db. So we name it students.db. So we now save it. And so the next thing we do is to import our student.csv file into SQLite browser. We can now go to file, we go to import, we select the option table from CSV file. Remember we saved it as CSV file. So you click on that, then you come and select the table, then you open it. So this is our student table, and we are going to change the headers. We give them different formats. So we make sure that the column names are in the first line, and the field separator is a comma, because you can have other options. So the code character is equals a quotation mark. The encoding is UTF-8. Then finally, you can now see the two records here. We move to the next. So we can now see our record is being imported into SQLite. And from there, we move to the next operation. So after clicking OK, when you have this pop-up window titled as Edit Table Definition, just close it. What you do is to go to File, move direct to Import, then Import Table from CSV file. Then you go to Desktop as usual. You go to select the students of CSV, say Open. So what you are going to ensure is that these columns are labeled properly, and that the column names in the first line, that is ID, name, GPA. I think from there, you just click on OK. Now you have the table displayed here in SQLite. That is with the column headers. So from there, we'll move to the next stage. You see, initially you're supposed to have 50 records in your table, but now we have only 2. So you can now go ahead with execute SQL. We can run our SQL and then add data into the table. We click execute SQL and we run the SQL from there. Now what is required of us after adding records into the SQLite browser? We are to analyze our fragmentation by running this SQL command. We first of all analyze, and then we select star from SQLite start 1. So this is what we are going to do. And next we add records and then observe the changes. Next we add record and then observe the changes. So we go straight to our SQLite browser now. So we now run this our insertion first. We execute the query command. So it says execution finished without errors. So it means everything is done. So we now try to do our analysis as we initially said. So from here we said analyze, select star from our SQL star. So we copy this and then we move to SQL browser. In the query or SQL window, we paste that and then we observe what happens. So we now run the query and then observe. So it says the table is called students table. Index is null because there are only few records inside. Then the statistics that there are presently 12 records. There are presently 12 records in our table. So it's so small to show the leaves pop up. So we can now go to the next stage. We still add records and add records and add records until we see the difference. Please, you can see that after running the SQLite start 1 command, this table is displayed, but it showed me the index is null. That means it's not indexed. So the next thing we do is to create index on the table on GPA. So move ahead and then type create index GPA on student table, then with respect to column GPA. So what you do is to run the command. So it says execution finished without errors. So we now go back and view our data. We refresh it. So after running the command to execute an SQL to create the index on the students, so we now run the analysis command again. We analyze select star from SQL start 1. So when that is done, you find that the output is that the index now created as IDX on GPA. And now the statistic shows that we have 12 record entries with 2 page notes and with 3 page notes. So let's add additional records and see what changes from 3. Now I've added record into the student database. You can see the records are now up to 20 because after running the command, it says execution finished without errors. So let's run our analysis again and to see the performance of our database. So initially we saw that the page leaves were only 3. Let's see now it's going to increase to more in number. Now let's analyze again and see. We run the command again to execute the query. See, instead from 3, it has now increased to 4. So it means it's degregating. It means the leaf pages are fragmenting. So this is what you are supposed to see as the output.